I feel like it always even to leave. I feel like I should just tap the papers. It was actually,
I can start getting naked next time.
we need to have we all should have our funny thing that we all do when we're getting ready to finish. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Geekified. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We've always said we're going to mix up the channel a little bit and do very, very different things, not just news reviews. We're going to be doing DVD reviews. And for any of you really young people out there who don't know what a DVD is, it's this little disc thing. You pop it in. I don't have viewer stats on YouTube yet, so I don't know what age you guys are. So if you're under 15 and you're watching this, DVDs soon be obsolete.
Pretty much are already.
I know. But what we've done this time is myself and Nathan, and there's going to be other members of the team, are challenging each other to watch a film, do a DVD swap of any film that we think we'd either appreciate or would like them to appreciate. So today is our first episode, and we've already done our swap and we've already watched our films. So I challenged Nathan to watch a film called Enduring Love.
I think you think that there's this sort of bond between us because of what we went through.
Well, everything means something to someone. Everything happens for a reason.
It was meant to be so special. I brought champagne. I brought a ring. I was going to propose to you.
I love you.
I love you too. None of us had let go. We could have saved him. But I let go of the rope. I let go.
If you hadn't, I'd be sitting here without you.
Hello!
Hello, mate. It's Jed from the Balloon. I was wondering whether you'd like to meet up.
Where are you?
I'm in the park across the street.
You know, we've both been through this awful experience. You've got to stop following me like this. It's getting a bit weird.
Then why is he following you anywhere? What have you
I
done?
haven't done anything. Could you just leave me alone?
We must stop meeting like this.
What do you want?
You know what I want.
I don't!
I think you do. Better than you think.
If this is about Claire, we can work it out.
Oh, my God. He's there.
You're such a good person, okay?
What have I done to you?
You haven't done
Why are you
anything to
keeping
me.
this up? I can't control my emotions as well as you can. I know this gives you power over me.
You're mad.
I'm just trying to help you, John. You started this. You made this happen.
Where are you? Where are you? I'm ready!
Where there's a will, there's a way.
If you ever bother me again, I will gut you like a fish. Do you understand me?
If you should ever leave me, then life would go on, believe me. The world would show nothing to me. God only knows what I'd be.
Where'd I be without you?
So that's Enduring Love. Don't know if Nathan enjoyed it, but he gave me this one called Souls.
I see my feet. How do I know they're mine?
Paul, what is going on with you?
You want to take a break, Paul? I have this throb in my stomach. I have a pain in my chest like somebody put my heart in a vice and just tightened it.
Things have been pretty strange around here recently.
I feel stuck.
Is your soul weighing you down?
I wasn't quite sure about the services provided.
We only offer the possibility to de-soul the body or disembody the soul. Believe me, when you get rid of the soul, everything makes so much more sense.
Good luck. How are you feeling? Well, maybe lighter. Yeah, light. The For a few days, we're fine.
Are you sick?
Yeah, just the usual stuff. Now, I've been sick as a dog. I can't make love to my wife.
You smell different, feel different.
I can't feel a thing, nothing. I can't feel anything. I just want my soul back.
This has never happened before. We probably shipped it to our New Jersey warehouse.
Oh, God. How did we get to this point?
This is a serious business, soul trafficking.
You know where it is.
Your soul is in Russia.
What?
We thought we were getting Al Pacino's soul.
Well, I'm really very sorry that things didn't work out with Al Pacino. When did my life become so complicated? Oh, God.
So we both watched them, and I enjoyed mine.
I enjoyed mine. Well, not if enjoyed's the right word. Appreciated mine.
Yeah, I think today is the first DVD swap has been more of an appreciation club rather than anything else. So we managed to challenge each other with a DVD or a film that neither of us have seen, and they've both turned out to be very well advised. So Nathan, give me your summary. What did you think of Enduring Love?
Oh, it was really good. It's quite a bizarre story to it. It felt to me a lot like in the heyday of sort of British independent cinema. It still had that feel to it before, because nowadays even independent cinema in the UK is fairly commercialised, and you don't see that many films that are proper independent anymore. But this one really felt, considering how good the cast was in it, particularly, you know, Daniel Craig, Samantha Morton, Bill Nighy, Rhys Ifans. I always forget that Irish girl's name that was Bill Nighy's wife in it. Always forget her name. It's probably on the back of the DVD.
Actually, can't remember.
No, it doesn't say. But I know who that is. I've seen her in a few things, and she's a very good actress as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a very sort of interesting concept. It was I sort of viewed it as a big metaphor, the whole film, for, you know, guilt and how people deal with guilt and sort of the eventual acceptance of that. Very well acted, very well scripted. Shows you that Daniel Craig can do sort of parts of real substance and sort of malice almost in some parts. But yeah, no, I was blown away by it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very old film. You're talking
2004, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a very, very old film. It's one of those films that I find myself recommending, which is why it was one of the first films I was going to do in the DVD swap, or film swap, whatever you call it. It's one of the ones that I wanted to recommend to people. There was another film which I did challenge Nathan with, but you'd watched it, which was one of my number one favourite film.
And Sundays.
Yeah, I'm going to challenge someone else to that who's not seen that. I know a couple of people have, so it's not going to be much of an episode. But this is one of the other ones that kind of seems to fall under the radar. It doesn't really seem to be talked about, discussed. I mean, you're looking at Roger Mitchell as the director of this, and that's it's like a ton of films.
Mm-hmm.
Notting Hill, My Cousin Rachel, Changing Lanes, The Duke.
So how was he changing lanes? I didn't know he was changing lanes.
Yeah.
That sort of fits more in with the sort of style of this than Notting Hill.
Yeah, but you can see the kind of. I mean, Notting Hill is not overall a happy film. It's it's a disturbing film in a certain degree as well. So he seems to, as a director, he seems to catch the psyche of people. He seems to catch how people, very almost humanity, and manages to match the humanity very much onto the film of what people are going through.
I mean, this film was stunningly shot as well. Some very interesting shots. There are lots of like weird close-ups and weird sort of like almost like swinging camera shots and stuff like that, which was it really added to the sort of macabre element of the film, I thought.
The one scene that always I remind in my head, because it's been a while since I've actually watched it. It's just obviously giving it to Nathan, but I think he's looking out. Daniel Craig's character's looking out into the car park and sees Rhys Ifans standing in the car park.
Yeah.
And the way that it's shot is like a horror movie, and it had, for me, it was flashes of Exorcist.
But even there's a few scenes like that where he looks out windows and sees them, or looks out of cars and sees them. And there's one when Rhys Ifans sort of hovering at the back, he's just eating a sandwich or something.
Yeah.
And it's just even that's quite it's quite eerie. Like it's sort of like, you know, he's sort of almost like Rhys Ifans, his whole life is spent outside this guy's windows and cars and things like that, and he does everything in that sort of place.
Yeah,
I thought it was quite interesting.
He almost felt as if like the guy was almost desolate and desperate and didn't have anywhere to be until this one moment managed to find him a purpose, which was become a psycho stalker for this guy. And it sounds terrible.
There's implications that he's possibly done it before, isn't there? Doing it, they don't expand on it, but there's implications that it's not the first time he's possibly stalked somebody or whatever. But and is that the reason why he was at the balloon site in the first place? Because that's never really explored either. But yeah, and I thought it's just such a bizarre sort of idea for a film. You know, let's have these guys, all these people in a field, and suddenly a rogue balloon goes overhead, and then, you know, and just the whole idea, the whole thing. I liked this about halfway through. They came up to this thing where it was who let go first, and it's them that caused the accident. That was such a cool idea as well.
Yeah, because
I found myself trying to remember in my head from watching it who it was. I didn't, but I was very close to rewinding it back and having a look.
I think it's almost purposeful. I think the way that it's filmed as well, that you don't actually know. So you think you've watched and you've seen so much of the film at the start, you think you know exactly who let go first. But when it comes to that point, when it's almost a blame game, and then they're having a kind of argument over, I mean, it really is a purpose of who did let go first, because that means it's that you're giving up. When one person gives up, you all have to give up. Yeah. But without going back and rewinding, I don't think they actually give it away. There's no one you don't actually get to see, really.
I thought it was, I forget the names of the character, I thought it was Daniel Craig's character that let it go first. But maybe that's just because the whole way through that film, they play on this idea that I've read about it before, this sort of psychologist idea where if you can't remember things, your body fills in gaps.
Yes,
So like, because he does a bit when he goes to the field and he looks up and he sees where the car would have been, where the guy who dies comes running out of it, and he sees like 3 different characters as he's remembering it, and it sort of played on that. Maybe from what we were seeing was sort of his recollection of it, and obviously the whole film's basically about his guilt over that guy dying, and so he feels it his fault, and maybe that's what it seems like all the other characters, because at the bit in the end when in the field and he's talking to a few of them, it feels like they all felt like it was their fault as well, you know, which is quite interesting. I like exploration of guilt is what I would describe the film as.
Yeah, definitely. It's I'd love to know where he got the story. I did have a quick bit of research done to see if I could work out where the concept came from, where the story came from, of why the whole film came to be, but I couldn't find very much of it. It seems like it's a kind of almost like PTSD for something that's happened in the screenwriter's life, and he's dealing with it. But it's phenomenally written. It's just.
I mean, the interesting thing for me as well is they sort of throw it away. There's a throwaway comment at one point when they ask what actually happened to the balloon, and they said, "Oh, it came down in the next field," and it's not really explored again after that sort of thing. So. So the outcome of what happened wasn't as important as what happened to those people in that small part of the incident. You know what I mean? Which I thought was quite an interesting idea as well. You know, it's not in like all these like major things that happen in the world. You know, 9/11, etc. It's a terrible thing that happens, but it's how it affects you individually is almost more important.
Yeah, because as you're saying, it's good the fact that. Obviously, each person was going through their own thing, but when you get to the end of the film, it's more of a discussion of who's feeling that way, and it's well, if you're feeling that way, I can't feel that way, so none of us should feel that way.
The only part I didn't like of the film was the sort of last scene when Rhys Ifans' character's in the mental asylum and he's writing he's drawing his pictures and stuff. I thought that was a bit cliched. I don't think it was really needed. Yeah,
because the guy's obviously lived out his life relatively okay so far. I mean, he does seem to have some sort of dark side, but he's not needed to go into a mental home, or he's not needed to be locked away. I think they were probably usually find when you get films like this that the studios want to give a bit more direct closure to things, of like the result of you shouldn't be this way, so we need to show the audience that this is what will happen, that kind of thing.
For me, it didn't need that last. You could have not had that last scene. I would have stopped in the same film.
I think for me, I think one of the most poignant things about the film is actually him landing. It's so graphically shocking, and there isn't.
But when the guy lands in his
Yeah, it's so, it doesn't fit in with the film so much that it just feels like a very, very. It feels like it was almost like something I saw. It means brutally gory, but it's not on screen for very long, but it sticks in your head.
Yeah.
And I think that we didn't have to have that, but that worked. That just left me just feeling numb for the next 20 minutes, and it really made you feel what the characters were feeling, because if they had to witness that, then you as a viewer have to see that as well, of what the actual outcome.
I mean, it is almost like a parody, or not parody's the wrong word. Can't think of the right word. Like it's loose. You can see it's almost loosely around like the 9/11 sort of idea. You know, this horrific thing happens and how it affects everybody around about them. And you know, there's been stories in the press about, you know, people who, they gravitate towards other survivors and other people that have experienced things, or even just like, you know, people that were standing round about it and saw it happen. They gravitate to them, and like these weird relationships formed. And it could even be parody's the wrong word. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Like a simile or something off that sort of situation.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of those films that I always feel that it's stuck in my head, and I always like to pass films like that on, because it's such an interesting story, and it's very different and very unusual, and you don't get a lot of films like that anymore. Everything seems to be so
formulaic. Yeah,
so straightforward. Questions are answered. Everything has to be woke or correct or don't upset anybody.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't think there's anything that could have been what we'd consider today being woke in this film anyway, but apart from kind of obviously the character, Rhys Ifans' character does have some mental health issues, which is very, very evident. But but it's just a great piece of storytelling, which is phenomenal. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would. I mean, it's stuck in my mind, and I also I was reading somewhere about this thing that apparently in a lot of directors use this sort of tool whereby if anything's red, it signifies death in a scene, and obviously the whole thing's about a big red balloon.
Yeah, and it's kind of foreshadowing a balloon, isn't it? Just in the back, flying about.
Yeah, it is, and then even the bit when they're hanging off it, it's sort of it's shot so you can see the big red thing behind it and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a very good film. I mean, I would definitely recommend it to other people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said, this was the film that I always remembered when I found out that Daniel Craig was becoming Bond. I remembered this film and I thought, no, he's going to be great. He's a very, very talented actor. I could see, you knew he was a talented actor because he wasn't known for a lot pre that.
Layer cake was about it, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, so you knew he could be the kind of rough guy, but in this one, there's a lot of depth to the character. So it goes through a lot in this one short film, but that Craig manages to pull so much into it. It's incredible. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
should have done a lot better than it did. So what do you did you check what its results were on?
You know, I was just about to ask you. I meant to check before, but I didn't look.
Yeah.
I'd imagine it's probably not that. I imagine critics probably scored it quite high, but audiences probably wouldn't have.
Yeah. So it ended up coming out with an IMDb 6.4 out of 10. Which is not particularly amazing.
About an 8.5, I would put it.
Yeah, and then I've got Amazon for some reason. Rotten Tomatoes only gave it 59%.
That's because it's aggregate score, isn't it, of critics and
yeah. I can't find the other one.
I mean, but the thing about it, it's one of these. You've got to bear in mind, IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes are heavily sort of American bias with the audiences there, and I don't think they would have. It's not an American sort of film. There's not a lot apart from the first 10 minutes. Not a lot happens in the film.
Yeah.
It's all about what's happening in people's minds and things like that. So, I don't think a bit too avant-garde for them.
Yeah, very much. That's a good word for this film. It's a very avant-garde kind of film. And then Empire gave it 3 out of 5, which is a bit strange for them. I thought that'd be right up their street.
Yeah.
Given that it's quite an old film now, I thought that would be very, very...
Yeah, but then, Chris, we've already proven on this channel that apparently we know nothing about film and we get all of our reviews wrong, so...
Cursed. That's the only word I need to give to that. Please see our review. We hated it. Sorry, it's guff. absolute awfulness in a TV show. I don't know why it's so successful.
Yeah.
But hey ho. So that was Enduring Love. I got Cold Souls,
which no one's ever heard of.
No one's ever heard of. I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
Nah. And it's strange because I'm a big Paul Giamatti fan. Paul Giamatti being the lead character in this, obviously.
It was at that time he did this when he did a few slightly under the radar films.
Yeah.
Wasn't long after like American Splendor and stuff like that, where geeks like myself have heard of these films and watched them, but most people haven't. And I mean, even Cold Souls, it was one of those walking about HMV at 5 o'clock on a Friday night, don't want to go out tonight, so I'll buy 3 films for 20 quid sort of purchases for me. So I hadn't heard of it before I'd bought it, but then the premise was what got it for me.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's such an interesting, like, I know that's what films and storytelling is all about. It's about kind of telling bizarre concepts, but you're going back to a very avant-garde, very style story of a character who had just explained in the intro, which you'll see when I was putting up the clips, of a guy who, Uncle Vanya, he's an actor. It's obviously supposed to be Paul Giamatti. It's almost like a slight telling of his life. He's playing Uncle Vanya in a Chekhov play in New York or wherever it is supposed to be set, and he basically ends up he gets the soul of a poet to go in because he's struggling with getting feelings and getting the right connection to playing this character. So he has his soul actually removed from him, and then gets one of a poet instead, so that he could feel more in line with the character. And then in doing so, he becomes basically a shit actor. He's just a really happy, enigmatic, lovely person, but a terrible actor, which is the quite funny part. And he realises that he can't perform. So he wants his soul back, which leads into just absolute chaos of him travelling to Russia trying to get it back.
It almost becomes like a Cold War film at one point.
But it's done so dark. And do you know what I was thinking of, like, when I was watching this? I was thinking this could have been so many different types of film.
Yeah.
It could have been, like, you could have actually ended up with a kind of proper slap bang crazy slapstick comedy of this if you really wanted to, but it's done very very dark and very straight laced, and it's not really done for laughs. You do end up laughing quite a few times in it. It's so many things, like,
and I viewed it as a satire.
Yes, it's definitely satire
of both Hollywood. The first sort of half of it was more of a satire of method acting and theatre actors, and the second half's more of it becomes more like an action film, and it's more like a parody or a satire of like Hollywood, how Hollywood managed to make action out of anything.
Yeah. I think the funniest thing that I couldn't get my head not around, but I couldn't stop thinking about it and laughing about it, was obviously he's a successful actor. He's like then doing stage plays and doing this big part, but their movie's Soul, and it's a chickpea. So it's basically just a chickpea, and he's like, "Wait, what's that?" And everyone's going, "What?" Looking at it, going, "Is that what it is? Is that it? Is that all you've got? It's a chickpea?" And this is supposed to be like the guy whose soul that, well, there's another character in it who they kind of want his soul, and this chickpea is like, everyone's like, really? Is that it? This is supposed to be the big great, this person, big stupendously amazing actor, and his soul is the size of a chickpea. But I think the funniest part for me was everything that he wanted to be about being that character of Uncle Vanya in the play was everything about who he became trying to get his soul back.
Yeah.
So all the difficulty he was trying to get to, and all the stress and everything about that Chekhov play and Uncle Vanya, and the stress that he was going through as Paul trying to get his soul back, he was basically playing Uncle Vanya, which is a whole irony of what I thought of the film, which is why I found it so funny.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of research, obviously reading about this, and the director, this was her first film, and she did another short film I've not had a chance to watch called Happiness. So just a little short film.
That rings the bell.
I don't think it's not Happiness as in the famous film Happiness with Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's a very short comedy apparently about a guy shopping for condoms, and he ends up wanting to go with the label of the ones that are branded Happiness. But apparently it's very funny, so I'm going to try and find that. and watch that. Ironically, one of the things that's come on TV just recently on Netflix is I'm Thinking of Ending Things with Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah.
And I immediately in my head put this as very Charlie Kaufman-like.
And I thought it reminded me of what's it called? Adaptation. Nicolas Cage. It's like that, you know. Or I mean, you haven't seen Synecdoche, New York, have you?
No.
It's like that as well, a little bit, that sort of style of film. But yeah, it's just bonkers. It's a bonkers.
Yeah.
It's bonkers. Being John Malkovich sort of as well.
Yeah, it felt that way. But the Charlie Kaufman thing is, I ended up reading apparently Swathy Barthez hates being compared to Charlie Kaufman. She's got a lot of spite against it, according to a couple of the articles that I read. So, which I don't think is a good thing. You get very similar directors in every world.
Stop making films like him then.
You're going to have to date the films and see who was coming out with these ideas before that. But I'd highly recommend it. So the only look that I had for the reviews on it was 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb.
It is a niche film, you know. I mean, a lot of.
That's what I was thinking. I think, that type of humour, that very, very, very kind of black kind of humour, where
very ironic.
Yeah,
very ironic. Yeah.
And you have to think a lot watching these sorts of films. Tenet. I know we did a drunk review, but holy moly, that's a difficult film if you've not got your thinking cap on. But it's definitely a thinking film. So you do get a lot of people who don't review these very well on the basis of they don't want to watch a film to think about it. They want to watch a film for just pure enjoyment.
I think if you get any sort of understanding of like the acting profession and the way there's different types of actors. I'm sure that if Tony watched that film, he'd probably appreciate that sort of idea of trying to get the soul of somebody, or you know, that's what, like, you know, the method acting's all about, you know, trying to be the person. Or, you know, if we got Jared Leto, you know, is famous for it. Denzel, Hoffman, Pacino, all famous for that. And that's the sort of thing I took from it, having read a lot about the method acting and what people go through to try and, I mean, like Dustin Hoffman for Rain Man spent 2 years acting like the character to try and get into the role. And that's sort of what this was about, I thought. I mean, obviously you with an acting background, you probably appreciate that as well. With other people who don't necessarily understand that, probably think that's just a nonsense film, a guy trying to get a soul. What's that about? You know?
No, that's how I noticed the comparison to Uncle Vanya was like, it's such a difficult character. So it's a difficult play. It's famously one of the most difficult plays there is for the characters and the actors that play it. But I think that was why it was so funny to me, was the fact that he was struggling to play this character, and he naturally just became that character, just trying to get his soul back. And that was like, you were like, you see, it just kind of shows that, do you have to go to this place to get to be that type of person, when in reality you can be that type of person just by thinking about it properly? Yeah. And he does, without even thinking about it. He just wants his soul back, and he becomes Uncle Vanya in that play. But I would highly, highly recommend it. I think obviously it's the same for Nathan's recommendation.
If you can find it, if you can find it anywhere.
I've got it right here.
Auction it off.
I say auction, so anyone wants it, just leave a message in the comments, and I'll sell Nathan's property. But that was our first episode, our first recommendations for DVD swap. Two very, very good DVDs. I think now, Nathan, we now have to go for a challenge and challenges to bad films, since we've recommended two really good films to each other.
I've got some horror stories in my collection. Really bad ones. Really bad. Really stupid. I had a couple of films I went out and purposely bought because I heard they were so bad. Yeah, but I do that. I watch. I'm one of those types of guys. I'll watch a film to appreciate how bad a film can actually be. Do you remember years ago, Jordan was married to that guy who was like the MMA fighter?
Yes.
There was famously this horrific film he was in.
Yes, I can't remember what it was.
I own it. It's called Killer Bitch or something like that.
That's it. And he was the cross-dresser, wasn't he?
Yeah, I've got that. So if I can find it, you can have that next.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for that.
The worst thing I have ever seen.
Right. I'm going to have to really dig deep. But we'll be back for another episode of DVD swap or film film DVD swappage show episode. Don't know what to call it yet. It's not quite got a ring to it.
Flippy, swoppy, filmy, floppy.
Swippy, swoppy, filmy, floppy. There we go. That's straight from the words of Nathan. Thank you very much for watching. You're going to catch another episode of DVD Swap coming up. When you've met Mark and seen him in a couple of episodes, I've challenged him to watch Mean Girls, so that's going to be hilarious. The guy who would just not watch, he's watching Mean Girls. I don't know what I'm getting, but he's watching Mean Girls.
You're getting the Geordie Shore omnibus edition.
But if you've enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. We can't continue doing this unless we get more subscribers at some point in the future and lots more likes. And we'd love to constantly bring you more content, and we can only do that if we get both of them up. But thank you very much for joining in with us today. We'll be back with you in the next episode. Thank you. We can do this all day.
See ya.